Good morning and welcome to this event. This event is called Defending Academic Freedom by Supporting Students at Risk Towards a European Approach. My name is Philipp Efferts. I'm from the DAAD, the German Academic Exchange Service. I'm currently head of section for scholarship programs in the MENA region and also for the Hilde de Mien program.
And my name is Hilde Kjøstvedt. I work at the Norwegian Directorate for Higher Education and Skills as a senior advisor in the section for global cooperation, among other things with the Students at Risk program in Norway. This event is jointly organized by the Norwegian Directorate of Higher Education and Skills, by the DAAD, and by the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange.
Yeah, so these are 3 European institutions, and all of these institutions do have their own scholarship program for students at risk. And we are going to hear about these scholarship programs in a minute. We also would like to explore options for a European approach to students at risk at this event. I still remember, Hilde, around 1 year ago, the German Federal Foreign Office approached the DAAD and they asked us, there's now the crisis in Belarus. It would be good if you could develop a scholarship program for students at risk. And we directly agreed with the Foreign Ministry to open the program directly for students worldwide. And then actually we contacted you because you were one of the very few countries and institutions that already had their own risk program in place. And then I think we had like 2 or 3 video conferences where you shared your own experiences with your program, your STAR program, and it was very inspiring. This is why it was very helpful to have these conversations on the video, and you inspired us and you all gave us much input for our own students at risk program. So this is why I would like to say thank you for your support and also helping us developing our own student at risk program, the Hilde de Mien program. And this program, the Hilde de Mien program, went online on April 2021. And in the meantime, also our colleagues from Poland, from Norway, developed their own risk program. And so we thought it's time to take stock now. Which programs do exist? What has been achieved so far? We also would like to inspire other countries to develop their own students at risk programs. And also we would like to explore options for coordination of these different programs, especially at a especially we would like to explore a European perspective for students at risk. This is the purpose of the event today, and I think it's also reflected in the agenda, Hilde.
Yes, thank you for the kind words, Philip. And we are extremely glad to be able to continue to exchange experiences with the Students at Risk programs, both in Germany and in Poland. So we look forward to collaboration in the future as well. So for today, at first, we're going to hear more about the 3 programs that Philip has already mentioned. Then there will be short presentations by the directors of the 3 different agencies. And then afterwards, we're going to listen to an informal exchange between the directors and 3 of the students who are beneficiaries of the programs. Afterwards, we will listen to Emily Borzick, the Assistant Director of the Scholar Rescue Fund at the Institute of International Education, IIE, who's been a long-term partner of all our institutions and who's been supporting academics at risk for many, many years. Emily is going to bridge the national initiatives with an international perspective. Then we'll move on to a short break, and afterwards we will have a panel discussion about potential European approach to students at risk. The basis for this panel discussion is a joint proposal that was developed to coincide with this event, and which presents concrete ideas for a European approach.
Yeah, thank you, Hilde, for this overview of the agenda. I think now it's time to hear about the national programs, also to hear about student experiences. This is why we prepared the next session. So we will hear short presentations of the different programs. They will just be around like 5 minutes, so you won't be bored, I can assure you. So we will first hear from the German Students at Risk program, the Hilde de Mien program. It will be presented by Dr. Kai Six, who is the Secretary General of the DAAD. Then we will hear from the Polish Student at Risk program presented by the director Grażyna Ziebowska. And then we will hear from the Norwegian Students at Risk program presented by Harald Nybole. So now we are going to start with Dr. Six. Dr. Six, if you are ready with your presentation, just go ahead.
Good morning. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to the Hilde Domin program, the Students at Risk program at DIAD. It's a program which we implemented earlier this year in April 2021. And initially, the Hilde Domin program was established as a response to the ongoing political crisis in Belarus. However, we all know that there are many examples for academic freedom being under threat or being heavily restricted, and so this program therefore is has a central component to defend academic freedom worldwide. So Hilde Domin acknowledges the fact that a substantial number of students and scholars all over the world are not granted the right to pursue an academic career within a safe and secure environment. And therefore, our program aims at providing such a safe space at German universities. So let me briefly introduce you to the program, to the terms of the program. And here comes the first slide. And as I said, the primary objective of the Hilde Domin program is to support students and doctoral candidates from across the globe who are at risk of being denied their educational or other human rights in their home countries. And the objective is also to provide these students and doctoral candidates with an opportunity to begin or complete their studies or doctorate studies at a higher education institution in Germany. So who's eligible to be nominated for this program? First of all, nominees need to aim at completing a bachelor's or a master's degree, or they need to be doctoral candidates, as I said, which means the program is generally open for all levels of academic education until the PhD. So second, the program is open to students and doctoral candidates worldwide, except for some countries. In particular, countries which are members of the European Union, of the European Economic Area, or the European Free Trade Area. So, and then there are some other smaller countries like Andorra, Monaco, or San Marino, which are also accepted. And thirdly, all eligible candidates must prove that they are at risk of being denied their educational or other human rights due to ethnic, sexual, gender, or religious identity, or due to their political or civic engagement. And so what do we mean with political or civic engagement? In the terms of the program, we mean either the participation in groups or individual actions which are based on liberal and democratic principles and that seek to contribute towards a positive social change in the nominees' home countries. So, and how does the selection process work? So potential candidates cannot themselves apply initially for participation in the program, but they are nominated by the management of an organization or a higher education institution. So these organizations all need to be legal entities which are registered in Germany. Nominations are then being submitted via an official nomination form, which we provide at DIAD. And after the submission of the nomination form, we carry out an initial plausibility check, of course. So afterwards, suitable candidates are contacted by DIAD and invited to apply personally via the DIAD online application portal. So we start with the nomination process and then the individual application process. Nominations and applications can be submitted throughout the whole year. However, the selection process takes place twice a year. And as part of this selection process, we assess both the candidate's status of risk and second, their academic potential. And let me say some few words regarding this concrete selection process. So first, we have an independent commission of experts with relevant regional and technical expertise. And this commission reviews all applications based on the risk situation of the individual candidates. So this bases applicants at risk according to the meaning that I described before. So if applicants are actually at risk, they will be admitted to the academic selection process. And this academic selection process is then carried out by an independent academic selection committee with experts from respective academic fields. And these experts evaluate all applications based on academic quality and merit. And based on this competitive selection process, a scholarship is either granted or denied. Let me talk very briefly on the duration of funding and the benefits, but I do not want to bore you with too many details regarding our financial modalities. But as a general rule, the Hilde Domin program grants scholarship holders the same financial benefits as regular scholarship holders of DAAD. Which means that the financial benefits are supposed to cover all relevant costs and to give scholarship holders the opportunity to live a decent life in Germany so that they can focus on their studies and conduct research in a secure environment. So in total, up to today and in the initial selection round in July, 50 scholarships have been awarded. Of these 50, 24 have been awarded to female and another 24 to male students and doctoral students, and 2 scholarships have been awarded to individuals who classify as diverse. And in terms of the academic level, 15 scholarships have been awarded for bachelor's, 20 scholarships for master's degrees, and 13 for doctoral degrees. And the second selection round of 2021 is still running and will be completed in the next days. So since the Hilde Domin program is a relatively new program, and we still have a rather steep learning curve, and I'm still trying to improve the program on a constant basis. So the exchange here today with you is very important for us to learn how you run your at-risk programs, and the European dimension opens up an important perspective in this regard. And so I'm very excited for our debates. I hope we will be able to hear each other, to listen to each other, to talk to each other. And for the moment, thank you very much. And I pass over to the next presenter. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Six, for your presentation of the Hilde Domin program. Next, we are going to have a presentation by Dr. Grażyna Żebrowska. Dr. Żebrowska is going to present the Polish program for students at risk, which is implemented by our colleagues from NAWA. So, Dr. Żebrowska, if you are ready, then my colleagues will be able to share the PowerPoint presentation, and then you could start your presentation.
Yes, ready. I am happy to share a few thoughts about our program. Thank you, Nawa. Here to share how Poland has responded and will continue to respond to the political situation in Belarus. We are supporting students who are at risk to the ongoing threat of anti-democratic extremism. So may I have the next slide, please? Why Belarus? The answer is obvious. Belarusians are our neighbors. Poland is connected to its eastern neighbor through the 400-kilometer-long border, which crosses the magnificent Białowieża primeval forest, the remaining 200-square-kilometer patch of untouched woodlands, which centuries ago covered Central Europe. We also connected through shared national heroes and intertwined literary tradition and a similar dream of freedom. We have so much common as nation, even our national colors of white and red. So that was impossible for the Polish academia to stand idle in the face of massive protests in Belarus against the rich election in August 2020. At the protest following this election, you could hear a Belarusian version of Jacek Kaczmarski's song Walls, the same song that became a powerful anthem during the Solidarity movement in Poland in the early 80s. So this connection inspired us to launch in September 2020 the program Solidarity with Belarus, a project to help Belarusian citizens affected by the political situation. So it is important to mention that Belarusians are the second largest group of foreign students living in Poland, almost 10,000, after Ukrainians. The initiative enjoys mutual support provided by the Ministry of Education and Science, the Conference of Rectors of Academic Schools in Poland, and of course by the universities. On top of the financial aid, NAWA provided its academic exchange expertise to manage the design and execution of this program. May I have a next slide, please? So on this slide, we can see a summary of all activities that were taken under the initiative Solidarity with Belarus. As you can see, we have tracked several targets such as support to scientists and students. The Solidarity with Students Scholarship Program is an ad hoc program that was created as a consequence of the elections that took place in Belarus last year, became clear. So considering that the whole situation developed swiftly, I am proud to say that we also reacted swiftly. NAWA provided support that resulted in 800 Belarusian students receiving scholarships, resulting total investment of almost 2.5 million euros in the Belarusian youth. Within the same initiative, we have also backed online courses of Polish language for Belarusians and of course provided support for teachers. May I have a next slide, please? So we can see some figures related to 2021 edition. We provided financial aid of 275 euros monthly for those students who are pursuing their PA, or 330 euros monthly for those in master programs. In addition, if they were enrolled in a full-time studies at public universities, they were exempt from tuition fees. Adaptation as well. To better support our new arrivals, we organized complementary activities to help students socialize with their peers and become more comfortable living in Poland. So may I have a next slide? May I have a next? And this year we were able to extend the program, and in the second edition, from total of 1,800 applications received, we will be awarding more than 350 scholarships. The monthly financial aid remains the same as from the last year, and as well will continue the tuition fee waiver for students enrolled in full-time studies in public universities. So in the last slide, please, because I believe that my 5 minutes are coming to the end. So I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share how NAWA has supported Belarusian students in Poland, and I look forward to our new class of Solidarity students next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Żebrowska, for this presentation. It's very impressive numbers that you could share with us. So now there is one presentation left from our colleagues from Norway, and this presentation is going to be made by Harald Nybele. So Mr. Nybele, if you are ready, then our colleagues could share the presentation again, and you could start with your introduction.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this event, which is really important for all of us. Just let me get this. So I think that from our perspective, and this program that we have called the Students at Risk program, or the STAR program, as we like to call it, because all the students at risk that are participating in this program are the real stars here. It is administered by our agency, the Norwegian Directorate of Higher Education and Skills, and it is funded by the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So then we go to the next slide. So why do we have a Students at Risk program in Norway? Well, one of the strengths, I think, of this program is that the initiative was taken by the student organizations in Norway, specifically the Norwegian Students and Academics International Assistance Fund and the National Union of Students in Norway. And they launched a campaign to support academic freedom and student activists in 2012. So this goes actually way back. And one of the outcomes of that campaign from 2012 was that the Students at Risk program was established as a pilot in 2015. The STAR program recognizes the crucial role that students play worldwide in the fight for academic freedom and human rights, and the risks that they may run into by fighting this fight. The overall objective of the program is to identify students who, due to their human rights activism, are at risk of being denied educational or other rights in their home country, and to provide these students with an opportunity to complete their education in Norway. And then, having completed an education, may strengthen the students' opportunity to act as change agents in the longer term. Next slide, please. The STAR program operates a bit differently from the ordinary scholarship programs. So students do not apply directly to the program or to Norwegian higher education institutions. They are nominated as potential candidates. And the candidates are nominated by different human rights organizations, by students' organizations, by Norwegian higher education institutions, or the Norwegian embassies. And the nominated candidates submit their academic credentials to the Norwegian Agency for Quality Assurance in Education in Norway. Their credentials are then checked to see who among the candidates qualify for admission to higher education in Norway. The information on the candidates that qualify are then forwarded to the Norwegian higher education institutions that check if they have an international academic program that corresponds with the students' qualifications. Students who then qualify are offered admission to one or more study programs, and if they accept the offer, they are then awarded with the Students at Risk scholarship. Then they must apply for a student visa to study in Norway, and when the visa is granted, they can travel to Norway. The whole process from nomination of candidates start to the student actually start studying takes more than a year. So these procedures are a bit cumbersome, So this is also, of course, something that we are looking at. Then the final slide, please. So since 2015, 308 students have been nominated to the program, and out of those, 72 students have been awarded a STAR scholarship. These students, they come from 17 different countries in Latin America, in Asia, in Africa, and Europe. The STAR program was evaluated in 2019, and we are really happy to see that the evaluation found that the program to a large degree was successful in achieving its objectives and goals, and recommended that the program was continued. So after a COVID-19 enforced gap year in 2020, the 7th nomination and admission round is now underway, and new students are expected to start their studies in the autumn term of 2022. So that's a little bit about the STAR program, and I think that what's really important for us is to see that this is something that has triggered some interest in both in Germany and in Poland. So we are really happy about that, and of course it will be interesting to see if this can also be an inspiration in other countries, and also if this is something that could also trigger an interest, you know, from the European Union side. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nübele, for this presentation. Your program really serves as an inspiring example. And of course, now we would like to hear the experiences of students, of current or also of former scholarship holders, to get some insights. How does it feel to be a scholarship holder in such a student at risk program? So we are going to have some informal exchange between the directors who just presented these programs and between current and also former scholarship holders of our organizations. So this discussion will mainly be online, and I think you should all be here now in the online meeting. And we agreed that Dr. Six from the DAD is going to start with the first questions, but then during the session, of course, all the other members of the panel will also contribute. So Mr. Six, if you are ready, then we can just start.
Right, thank you very much. So Harald, you just said that the scholarship holders are the actual stars of this program. I think this is very true, and I'm very glad that the floor is also yours now to share your experiences. For this reason, I would like to start with a question or with a request to very briefly introduce yourselves personally, and also tell us some remarks, some words on your study background. So maybe we start with Julia from Belarus.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia and I come from Minsk, Belarus, where I've spent most of my life and where I finished my high school and also got to learn Polish for a year before applying to my university. I also have finished a preparatory course on the behalf of NAVA. Thank you very much for that. And I was able to adapt properly to the student environment, and now I'm in the second year of my bachelor in cultural science of Central and Eastern Europe.
Thank you so much, Julia. I'll pass on to Hector from Honduras.
Thank you. My name is Hector Ulloa. I come from Tegucigalpa, Honduras, the capital city in Honduras. I have a background in law back home, where I was also a student activist in the student movement in Honduras. And I came to Norway in 2018 to do my master's degree in public administration through the STAR program. And I have been living here in Norway since. It's 3 years now. And now I finished my studies, and I am working with the organization that Harald mentioned that came with the idea for STAR, the Norwegian Students and Academics International Assistance Fund.
Thank you so much. We'll come back to you. and your experiences with the program that you had so far in a bit. But I first would like to introduce also Nikki from Myanmar, who is the DID scholar. Nikki.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Nikki Diamond. I'm from Myanmar. I have my bachelor degree in economics, but the education in Myanmar has been disseminated under the military regime for so many decades, so I couldn't have a quality education. But I had my master in human rights, and now I'm a doctoral student at the University of Boston. So this is very impressive initiative program for the people like me, who have been forced to leave the country. So I really thanks everyone who are helping people like me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to go a bit deeper to your experiences with the at-risk programs that our organizations offer. So, Julia, if we start with you, how did you learn about the program initially, about the NAVA program, and does the program meet your expectations, or where do you still see also room for improvement, for example?
I'm actually an awardee of General Władysław Handel's program. That is another program of NAVA. They're supporting Belarusian and not only Belarusian students, but students with Polish heritage. And I've learned about that program when learning Polish and out of interest in my Polish heritage. My teacher was basically openly promoting the scholarship, and I've never seen any future in Belarusian higher education, so this was the key to my path. I wanted to indulge in a stream of opportunities and take a full breath, knowing that it would secure my financial situation when moving to a whole new culture and environment. In that case, in that sense, the program fully met my expectations, and I was able to adapt and overcome the difficulties I've met at first without breaking. And I also have a bunch of friends and students that are bodies of students solidarity with Belarus, and also Kalinowski program, who are now studying at Polish universities, secure. And yes, I believe that there is always room for improvement. For example, providing help for applicants before the examinations, or when dealing with legalization process. A change has been made to Władysław Anders program in 2020 when the situation in Belarus occurred, and students were able to apply for permanent residence permit thanks to those changes. And with ongoing situation in Belarus, this change has provided a sense of security and stability to students' lives.
Thank you so much. Hector, Poland and Belarus are quite neighbors, so it's not so surprising that Julia became aware of this program, but Honduras and Norway, then not so much. And so could you tell us a little bit about the way how you became aware of this offering of the Norwegian partners, and about your experiences you made so far, and also some reflections on room for improvement? Thanks.
Yes, like I mentioned, I was a student activist back home, so I was the spokesperson for the student movement, and this was between 2016 and 2018, where we had a very big student movement in Honduras. We were fighting to have a student democracy in our only public university. And this generated a lot of discomfort from the authorities and from the people. We don't live in a very democratic country in Honduras, and that resulted in many students facing criminal charges. We have over 230 student activists with criminal charges, and we had 18 students who were expelled at once from the university, and that got a lot of attention. And something that is very important in the Norwegian version, I think, is the role that these nominating actors have. because we have some human rights organizations like SAI, for example, which has networks in these other countries, and they can then communicate these kind of opportunities. And that was what happened with the Honduran case. When we had all of these students expelled through the networks of this NGO of SAI that they collaborated in the region, then they contacted an NGO from Honduras who was working with us, who was helping us with our legal cases. And then they said, there is this opportunity where you can be nominated to this program. You can go and finish your studies, take a break from your activism, and then re-engage or come back. So for my case, I wasn't expelled from the university. I didn't receive any criminal charges either. So my risk was more on the physical, like personal life kind of things, death threats and such. And that was how I got this risk analysis, and I got nominated through the START program through SAI. Then I went through the whole process, came to Norway, and the program filled my expectations. I was thinking at first that it was going to be a calm 2 years where I was going to take a break from activism, but then I also found a very nurturing space here in Norway to re-engage in other kind of activism and do other things besides my studies. So I would say that on that sense, the programming, it surpassed my expectations. It came from a personal break into a more like development, 2 years of more development and more activism and learning new things in a totally different context. And of course, there's a lot of things that can be improved. I will just mention one quickly, and maybe we can talk about the other ones afterwards. And it's the language part. Coming from Latin America, I can't avoid the fact that most of the people in my region, we don't speak English, we don't speak other languages, we speak Spanish. And then having these programs where the offer for English speaking courses is very limited, and there's none in Spanish or in French in the African context, for example, where we have many student activists, that really limits the amount of students that need this kind of programs and can access it. And of course, an international network, a European approach will really help towards solving this issue.
Yeah, thank you so much for these insights. Same question to you, Nikki. So how did you become aware of the Hilde Domin program, and what are your expectations so far? You are part of our very first cohort of students at risk, so we are very interested in hearing from you how your expectations are met. Thanks.
Yeah, because of the Myanmar military attempted coups, so my background is the human rights researcher as the country. I've been documenting human rights violations since 2015. I work for the International Human Rights Organization for the Fortified Rights. So in mid-May, I have been warned by my military friend to leave my home. So I was in the jungle, the Thai-Myanmar border. So at the time, I didn't know what to do. So, but I've been in contact with my professor. So we have been talking to do a PhD under her supervision. So, but I've been looking for any opportunity. How can I get out of the country? And then in April, we have seen the launch of the Hilde Domin program, and I had an opportunity to apply. So yeah, that's amazing. Like just in time, like people facing the disaster in the country, and the program in timely launch. And so I've seen the other Myanmar students also in the part of the program. So it's really a great timing for us to get out of the country. So from Myanmar and Myanmar context, sometimes my friends criticize me like I'm very privileged to go and study abroad under this difficult situation in Myanmar. Actually, I have been defending the right of the marginalized community in Myanmar for at least 1 decade, more than 1 decade. So I invested, I have taken all the risks against the Myanmar military. Sometimes Myanmar military intelligence police have been following me 24/7, and all the risks in the past. But right now, it is not the privilege, but I couldn't continue my activism against the military attempted coup in Myanmar. So, but now I have a chance, and I now continue my activism against the Myanmar military coup. So this is a kind of situation I'm being dealing, and also people from Myanmar, inside Myanmar, the education is really bad and poor, even democratic transition. So, but right now, I mean, I'm extremely and 100% committed to build my nation. So without education, I cannot build my country. I cannot build the nation. So, I mean, now I'm away from my home, away from my country, but I'm having access to the quality education in Germany. It is amazing. So one day I could go back to Myanmar and bring with this knowledge and bring with all these experience, and I can walk in the nation building process. So that's my wish. Maybe my dream will come true sooner or later.
Thank you very much. This is very impressive, all of your three presentations. I'll pass on to Grażyna.
So thank you, Kai. I have also a question for our students, and you already said a little bit about your experience in Poland, in Norway, and in Germany. But could you say more? What have you learned from your university experience, and what have been your experience outside of university? And maybe we can start with Julia.
So the most important thing that I've learned is that student environment is much more welcoming than I thought it was. And because of pandemic, there weren't many opportunities to integrate socially. But I have had a lot of experiences outside. And I can say that there are a lot of factors that are not in control of agencies that provide help for students at risk, such as, for example, accommodation outside dorms during summer breaks that might actually cause a lot of anxiety and programs and sense of instability in students' lives.
Thank you. Hector?
Yes, I finished my studies already, so I can do a kind of reflection of how the whole process was. For me, it was very different coming from Honduras, doing a degree in law, to come into a university here to do a master's degree where I had to do research. We don't do a thesis for a degree in law, we just do a practice in Honduras. So I was able to experience that like research environment, more like independent work, which was very different. So I feel like on the academic side, that really helped me to see that there was other side to academia, and that I could work independently on this kind of research. And I wrote my master thesis about a topic from Honduras. I did a research about my country, so I also felt that that was a good way to like give back while being here, try to keep my link with the country, and try to do a research that maybe in my country I wouldn't be able to do because of the limitations towards academic freedom and the prosecution that you might face if you were studying into these kind of topics, because I wrote about accountability of international organizations in Honduras. So I felt like that was a good experience to have the institutional backing that I can do research and look into these topics. And also outside of the university, like I mentioned, I got engaged in student activism once again. I found that here in Norway, there was also a very vibrant student environment. There were a lot of organizations. There's a different approach, and that is what I have always reflected that is very good for me. And the fact is that I have now the background from Honduras, which was a very like street activism, protests and stuff. And now I learn here in Norway also the other side of more collaboration, different type of political lobbying, different type of engagement, more horizontal structures, and all of these other. It's a big cultural difference. So being able to learn from both and swim in both of them was very, very enlightening for me. And that is something that I take forward my whole life. It's not something that I lose or that stays here in Norway. Now I have both experiences, and in the future, I don't know where I will be and when I might need to use either of them.
So thank you very much. And now the same question to Nikki, please.
Sorry, if you don't mind, can you repeat the question? Sorry, I lost.
Yes, of course. I ask about what have you learned from your university experience and what has been your experience outside the university?
My university experience is really amazing in the way that I never have the kind of experience in my country, Myanmar. So especially I like the library at the university, a huge library, amazing. And also one of my feeling, a kind of feeling that I cannot able to communicate with German people, a kind of language barrier or cultural barrier. But at the university, everyone speak English. Not, I mean, for me, like engaging in the academic discussion, speaking. So it's more comfortable for me to communicate with the people at the university. But outside the university, sometimes, I mean, most of the people they don't speak English, but some speak English. So just depend on the context where I have been hang out and where I try to communicate with people. But the thing is that the beauty of the community in Constant is really amazing. Like everybody want to help me. So everyone interested in. I mean, so I'm from Myanmar, and they follow the news from the international media, and they know the context in Myanmar, and so everyone, I mean, show their love. I mean, so sometimes, I mean, my feeling is I feel like I'm away from my home. I'm away from my own community. I'm just a kind of alien in the this community, but I don't feel like I've been alienated by this community. So I'm very happy. And also, actually, one of the I'm lucky because I was in Constant in Germany in 2018 for about 2 months. So I know this town, but not very well, but I know this town and I know this environment. So yeah, I'm really happy living here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have one more question. The answer is really important for us, for heads of agencies like the or Norwegian one or NAVA. So why is it important that there exist programs like this? Julia, could you start, please?
Yes, sure. I think that such programs are the reason why diversity is present at the universities, and very few people have an opportunity to study abroad on their own. And those who might be pushed or forced to seek a new life benefit in so many ways. It's much more than just financial support. Thanks to these programs, students can thrive in a new environment, focus on their studies without having to struggle to provide for themselves.
So thank you very much, Hector. Please.
I think we have seen, unfortunately, since this was an idea 1 decade ago, that it has just become more and more relevant. We see a lot of students facing prosecution. We see a shrinking space for civil society, a lot of democratic backlashes around the world. And if we look at the history, it's has always been, it's very normal that it's students the ones that speak up when things go wrong. And it's students the ones that take the risks in society when other actors might be too afraid, or they might not speak. So I think that's one element, the fact that there is an increased need for this program to exist because things keep happening around the world. And then also there's this thing about the university's role, and we could also say the institution's role, all of those that work in the higher education sector. We see that universities as an academic space are they nurture this kind of critique and dialogues, and it is natural for students there to come with controversial things, if you would say, or to come with critiques to what is established in society, and to say something can be done on this topic, we can do better, society should change for better. And then if we see that this is like a very natural element from all universities, from the academic environment. When we see governments or universities in some cases as well attacking on students for filling up that natural role, then the international community or the other members of the higher education community in this globalized world, we should step in and we should also help and say, this is a natural thing. And if the environment in this country is not allowing for that to happen, we have solidarity networks that will then help these students to be able to fulfill that role. And having that exchange and having those safe spaces for students to fill that role of being critical actors in society, I think is really important for democracy, for human rights, and just in general for the world. We need people to keep on criticizing and for us to move forward. So we need the safe networks to protect them and to enable those kind of discussions.
Yes, so thank you, Hector. And now I would like to ask Nikki.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the program is the kinds of initiated and program is extremely important, and also based on available funding and money. So sometimes, I mean, a program can offer some certain student. Not, I mean, so my concern is we need more funding to receive more students like me, you know. So we are lucky to get in, but that student is, I mean, limited. So I see the crisis in Sudan, Afghanistan, Myanmar, I mean, around the world, you know. So they are facing the similar disaster like me. So also, I mean, to protect academic freedom and to promote the human rights. So rights to academic freedom is a human right, and that should be protected. So Germany and the European countries are so rich, and so they have lots of money, and those money should be spent on, I mean, more helping the student. So student, I mean, unlocking knowledge. So you already have the infrastructure resources. Those infrastructure resources should be unlocked to the student like me, like us, and then one day we can bring all these knowledge back to our country and build our nation. So that's my central idea. So we need more money to fulfill this dream, and this is not an impossible dream, but I think we all can, I mean, contribute this. Thanks.
Thank you very much. It was a really impressive part of our discussion. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Hector. And thank you, Nikki. And now I pass the floor to Harald. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And once again, thank you to all three of you, to Julia, to Nikki, and to Hector. And I'm so happy to be here with you. And it's so inspiring to hear your about your experiences and your really important backgrounds and your contributions into this. So you are really the stars. I also then want to just say that I'm so happy that we have these programs, and from a Norwegian perspective, I'm also really happy to see that the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs they have decided to continue the program, and so we have some we have some more time in the future to look at this and to prepare for this. So it's no longer just a pilot, but it has the timeline is a bit longer now. So I think that's really good. And I think that it's really also good to see that what you have said, that that you need, of course, this program, and you need it to be even stronger, and it needs to be funded more. So I think these are important elements that we take with us. Now, if we I think that it would be really interesting to continue this discussion with the three of you. And if we start again with you, Julia, and then considering your own experiences, what kind of advice would you give to someone who is currently a student at risk?
Yes, so I've actually thought about it a lot, because advice is not what is going to help a human being that is in trouble right now. And for students who are already in Poland, who are studying here who are right now in a preparatory course, I would like to say that take your time to learn the language, to learn the culture, to kind of endorse it all and be able to fit in, because this feeling of being foreign and not fitting in is kind of what always is there with you when you are making your first steps in a new environment. So yes, basically relying on your friends, making new friends in a new country is what is going to hold you up on the water and not like let you sink. So yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think the whole thing about language is really important. So that's good that you mentioned that. And Hector, if we bring it over to you, and you know, when we met a few weeks ago, I was really impressed to hear that your Norwegian is so good. So I mean, in a very short time. So you can probably agree with what at least some of what Julia said. So what do you think?
Yes, I totally agree with what Julia said. And I will sum it up to, if it is a student who is at risk and is now part of one of these three programs, then I would say make the most out of it. Really use this opportunity. Use it as an opportunity to reflect on what you were doing, to strengthen those convictions, those values that you were fighting for, or whatever placed you in risk. I think that's it's a good opportunity when you are in another country in a safe space to be able to reflect and see what you were doing and try to see what's the way forward. And with that way forward, also, students shouldn't be hard on themselves. Don't feel like you have betrayed the cause or your country because you escaped. You need to also acknowledge the fact that you were at risk, and what was important at that moment was for you to go to a safe place and now use that opportunity to be in a safe place and keep on developing yourself. So it can be two ways. While you're in the program, you can take a break, which is totally fine. You can just focus on your academic life and improve your academic life, or you can also re-engage in other types of activism, strengthen your activism, learn from a different culture, learn from different ways of doing whatever you were doing back home. But the most important thing is that I will be able to reflect and don't be too hard on yourself. And if it is a student that hasn't come through to one of these programs yet and is at risk, my advice would be, of course, like, keep going forward. Whatever you're doing, what is placing you at risk is important for your society. It is important for your country. So keep moving forward. And then the advice wouldn't go to him, but to us and the other members of the international community to pay attention to them and not leave them alone, because they need our help.
Very good. I think that, you know, you had some really good points there. Important for other students and for those who are working on these programs as well. So thank you. And Nikki, you already also mentioned the importance of language, and you seem to also be really happy where you are, and you have fitted in well. But what kind of advice would you give? Would you agree with what has been said so far, or do you have anything else to add?
Totally agree with Julia and Hector already mentioned. I feel like we are not alone now because of our activism or because of our previous work in our country. So right now, I never feel we are left alone. So my message to the other prosperity students, like, never feel alone. You are not left behind. So you already contributed to, we already contributed to our society. And now this is the time to take breaks, so because we cannot live in the country, and then take break to continue our activism in exile. So right now I'm co-authoring with the academic paper Activism Exile with the other DAD student and also under my professor supervision. So it means like, in the past we are not connected, but now because of this kind of platform, we are connected again in exile. So it means like we never lose our hope to continue work for the country and work for the, from our activism. So I feel like for the students, sometimes they are at the risk. So sometimes they don't have time for the preparation. But for me, like, I really want to do my PhD, so I have taken enough time to prepare to do my PhD. So preparation is important and also proactive. So I mean, without my preparation in the past, I cannot be able to apply this type of program, or I mean, get nominated by my professor. So yeah, preparation is one of the key elements for the, I mean, PhD student like me. But I don't know, I mean, for the bachelor and master, for how much time they need for the preparation. But I mean, I always to be proactive. So proactive preparation always helped me to overcome all the struggle. So proactive preparation is one of the suggestion takeaway for the prosperity student. Thanks.
Okay, so you have had some all three of you, some really good recommendations to the students at risk, who are currently students at risk, and what they should do. But how about if we do the same, basically the same question, but do you have any recommendations then, not to the students, but to those who are actually working with students at risk? What should they do? So should we do the same round again? So start again with Julia. Those working with students at risk, what should they do? What kind of recommendations do you have?
Well, honestly, just being a decent human being, not offering advice or denying students' situation. For example, both of my parents were called to trial, to court, and never know what is going on within the students' lives. As a huge advocate for mental health, I think that the only proper help will be therapy, but not every student can afford going to therapy. So I think just listening, being open, and taking into consideration that there are so many factors that can have an impact, both positive and negative, on the student's life.
Okay, excellent recommendation. Thank you so much. And Hector, what do you think?
Thank you. I think I might be a bit long with this answer, Harold, so sorry for that. But the first thing is, when it comes to those who have the power to influence the decision, so I'm talking about human rights organizations, student organizations, both nationally and internationally, political parties, youth political parties, NGOs, all of these people that can influence the political agenda, I feel they have a responsibility to speak about this and show society how important it is, because this is ultimately a political decision for the countries or for Europe to adopt this as a program and to give us the funds. It is a political decision. So we have a responsibility as a society, all of the civil society actors, to advocate for this program to continue and for it to improve, because then we will have a longer time frame, more fundings, and that will help us make the programs better. And when it comes to the actual program, I think there are three very important shortcomings that we can see today. The first one is when it comes to accreditation, because in many countries, accreditation is also a political thing, and a lot of students will lose their accreditation because the authorities will take the accreditation of their universities because they were criticizing the government or something like that, or because of the political context, or because of a war situation or something. So having alternative ways of evaluating students at risk's educational background is very important for the future of the programs in order to enable more access for students. The other issue is with the speed of the programs, like Nikki mentioned, when you have situations like the ones that happen in Myanmar or Afghanistan, where it is a critical situation, very quickly, unexpected, the students at risk program might be too slow to react then. And so we need more speed in the way we can have students come through these programs. And the last one is the one I mentioned about language. We need more languages in order to have a broader reach to students all around the world that are facing risk because of their activism or because of their studies or their research. And these three problems I mentioned, accreditation, speed, and language, can all be not entirely solved, but they could be better if we have an international network like the one your three agencies have proposed today. So I think that is a really good way forward to build this international network to try and address these three issues that will, I'm pretty sure that they will keep coming in the future as we move forward on the STAR programs. So I think that's what we need to focus the political work and solving these very specific issues on our programs.
Okay, very clear messages to all of us and to way beyond this meeting. But that's really good, very good. Thank you. And Nikki, what do you think? What kind of recommendations do you have to anyone working with the students at risk?
Yeah, I think giving a recommendation from my experience will be great, because when I working on the application, at that time I was in the jungle when military air striking in the care and control area. So I have a very limited access to internet, and so programs should have a more flexibility for the people who are really in danger during the application or during the process. So sometimes I feel like I almost give it because due to my situation in the jungle, and due to the limited access to internet and a lot of problems. But I see like I overcame these challenges, and now I'm here. So one of the recommendations is flexibility for the applicant who are really in danger, and also some kinds of support should be given, or more opportunity for those people like me. And also sometimes you're from the very high quality education and system. So sometimes people like me from so we are from the kinds of education is really destroyed, and so you cannot really expect the real quality education, but you are providing an opportunity for us to nurture, to develop our skills and academic knowledge. So at the time, my experience in Germany, so German university all the time they're looking for the high quality student. Their admission criteria. People from Myanmar. For me, like I feel like so sometimes they cannot be able to get in or admitted. From the German university. So there should be some kinds of flexibility for those people, people who are in danger, and so people who are from the really bad quality, really bad education. So flexibility is the one strong recommendation from me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much to all three of you for some really very personal and very good recommendation. So I think this will bring us further. That's what we all hope for. So thank you so much.
Thank you for this interesting and stimulating discussion. Thank you to Dr. Six, thank you to Dr. Żebrowska, thank you to Harald Wiberle, and especially thank you to Julia, Hector, and Nikki for your contribution and for your courageous work that you're continuing to doing as students and as activists. Now I'm going to introduce Emily Borzick, who is the Assistant Director of the Scholar Rescue Fund at the Institute of International Education. She's going to share her view on how the programs for students at risk complement the programs for researchers at risk that the IIE is running.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Hilda, and for having me here to speak today. As was said, my name is Emily Borzick, and I'm the Assistant Director with the Scholar Rescue Fund at the Institute of International Education. While IIE is based in New York, I'm very excited to be here in Brussels, where I'm now heading the new Scholar Rescue Fund Europe office. And being here is going to provide us with the opportunity to work much more closely with our many European partners, including the organizations that are participating in today's event. The Scholar Rescue Fund is a global program that provides fellowships to threatened and displaced scholars around the world. We work with universities and other partners to support SRF fellows in 1 to 2 year academic appointments so that they can continue their research and teaching in safety. These placements include numerous appointments in 21 different European countries. And while the Scholar Rescue Fund was established in its current form in 2002, IIE has been working to support threatened students and scholars since the Institute's founding more than 100 years ago. This started in 1920 with the Russian Student and Scholar Fund that helped more than 600 university students and threatened scholars during the Bolshevik Revolution, and has also included efforts to assist students during the Hungarian Revolution in the 1950s and those denied the right to education under apartheid in South Africa. And starting in 1933, for more than a decade, IIE led the Emergency Committee in Aid of Displaced Foreign Scholars, which brought to the US educators and researchers from across Europe who faced persecution by the Nazis. I raised the historical perspective because it was based on IIE's history of responding to individual crises that led to the establishment of the Scholar Rescue Fund almost 20 years ago. Unfortunately, the free inquiry nurtured through higher education institutions continues to pose a threat to repressive regimes, and entire academies may crumble under years of violent conflict, threatening the educational futures of millions. And this reality is reflected in our program's application numbers, which have steadily risen every year since 2015. It does not appear that the need will end anytime soon. With our permanent Scholar Rescue Fund program, we now have a mechanism to help scholars in need of assistance immediately. And we've built up the expertise of a dedicated staff and a network of committed partners who are integral to our work. We are now sure that we have the capacity to respond quickly and efficiently to new crises as well as ongoing conflicts. Scholar Rescue Fund specifically works with scholars who have already begun their academic careers. Most already hold PhDs, and the scope of our program does not extend to students, including those pursuing a PhD. But among the many requests for assistance that we receive every day are students seeking opportunities to continue their higher education abroad because of threats to their personal safety due to activism or aspects of their identity, or those whose opportunities have been shattered by conflict. The Students at Risk program in Norway has been doing impactful work in this area for some time, and we can also see in our email inbox the need for expanded programming. And for this reason, we were absolutely thrilled by the announcement of the Hilda Domin program by DAAD, which provides even more opportunities for threatened students to continue their studies. And while the program was conceived as a response to the situation in Belarus, I think that the timing of the subsequent crisis in Afghanistan really shows it provides some evidence for having an established mechanism and funding to support new crises in real time. And of course, there are more groups working in this area, including our colleagues in Poland and many individual universities who are stepping up to assist students at risk. But with more dedicated programming at the national level and with support from the EU and incentive from the EU, it would be possible to build the expertise, networks, and a culture for this work on a continuing basis. And so at IIE, we look forward to supporting these efforts. And today, I very much look forward to hearing from the panelists. And thank you again for having me.
Thank you very much, Emily, for this contribution and also showing how these student programs now complement the existing programs for researchers. So now we are going to have a short break. And after this break, we are going to explore a potential European dimension for Scholars at Risk. It will be done in a panel discussion. And we are going to meet in around 10 minutes, so at 11:40. So see you at 11:40.
Well, welcome back if you've been away. I'm David Crozier, and I work at the Eurydice National Unit. It's of the Executive Agency for Education and Culture. This is an a unit which does a lot of work on gathering information on education systems for the European policy making discussion. And in particular, I work on higher education topics, for example, in the Bologna process, and in all the European level policy discussions. We produce thematic reports and data and information for that context. So there's a lot of work actually been going on in relation to the questions of academic values, academic freedom, in particular, in these contexts, and that's why I'm very happy that to have the opportunity to moderate this discussion, which is going to really move now from the really fantastic programs at national level that we've been hearing about, but to look whether more or better work could be done at European level to support students at risk. I'd just like to say that I think it's really good that all of the national programs have made this emphasis on linking students at risk to academic freedom, because it's an aspect of academic freedom which is often neglected, that it's the right to learn. Often the focus is on academics and research, the freedom to teach and research in academic freedom, but it's absolutely fundamental that we also think about the importance of the right to learn and as a crucial aspect of academic freedom. Anyway, we have a wonderful panel today for this discussion. So I'm going to just briefly introduce them to you, and then I'll ask them to give just a short introduction about where they're coming from into this debate. So on my immediate right is Philip van der Poel, who has a long history of work at the European Commission and is currently the head of the unit for international cooperation in DG EAC, Education and Culture. So ideally placed for responding from the Commission's point of view. Next to Philip, we have Matteo Vespa, he's on the executive board of the European Students' Union. He's been very active in Italian student politics before joining SU as on the executive committee. And I have the pleasure of working with Matteo in a group on fundamental values in the Bologna process context. I'm very happy about that. Next to Matteo, we have Viola von Kramon-Taubadel, who's from the European Parliament. I think a Green member of the European Parliament, and she's extremely active on all these international issues and democratic process committees. So working in the context of Ukraine and Serbia, I think. So we're really happy that to have you here for the perspective of the European Parliament. And next to Viola, we have Michael Rohlander, who's from the German embassy here in Brussels and the head of the unit dealing with education and research. So great to have you all. So yeah, just very quickly, can you give us first of all your perspective on how you see these issues and the way we should be starting to think at European level? So Philippe, can I ask you first?
Yeah, maybe as a first reaction, first of all, very happy to be here. Unfortunately, it's a topic which is becoming even more relevant by the day. And I said from the Commission point of view, it is obviously a key priority. We've heard in the State of the Union from on the line that we stand by the Afghan people, for example. First VP Timmermans is insisting that not only universities, members, but also European Commission should be helping. And more concretely, early next year, we hope to be adopting communication on a new European strategy for universities. And there's also what you just said, the link with academic freedom. We also see that universities play a key role, and we hope to have some concrete initiatives in there in relation to both students at risk. So for us, it's a key topic. We know that a lot is happening at national level, but we also understand that there is rightly so people looking at the European level to see what we can do and what we can do better and more in this particular context. So that's a bit the starting point from our side.
Super. And Matteo, same question to you.
It's one of the key priorities that, for instance, we have put also for the future of Europe. Unfortunately, as it was said, the Belarusian crisis, Afghanistan, but what is happening generally in the world is making sure that is making evident that we need such a program. For what happened in Belarus, we also asked together the European University Association and Scholars at Risk of such a program. And now it is also one of the main ideas that were brought forward by the outcome of the European Youth Event within to be brought to the conference on the future of Europe. And also one of the two organizations that campaigned and founded the Students at Risk in Norway, and so is one of our members. So we definitely support to have a European approach on this, and we think that it's important not only to for the European Union to stand by their values, but also if they want to be credible, as they say, as the von der Leyen say, geopolitical presence in the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Matteo. Viola.
Thank you, David, and also thanks to the DAD for organizing this great event, this debate here. Well, for someone who is not just active in Ukraine and Serbia, but especially very much, let's say, connected to the people in Belarus on the ground, but also to those who were expelled from the country, I have to say, I feel a certain disappointment by, let's say, the raised expectation that the EU would take this as a key priority, would have an initiative, would be supported by some of the member states, especially the bigger ones, the financially stronger ones, and the reality on the ground. The reality is extremely poor. There are almost no chance for students to really apply for human visa if you are lost your accreditation on the university. Same is true for researchers. I mean, we see very many professors now without any income, without any revenues, for example, if they have protested during the rigged elections, and there's no chance for them to join any of those programs. So if we could really work on the things you have mentioned, for example, a single contact in the EU Commission, a mainstream initiative, really working on those high academics who are not purely English speaking, who of course look for other opportunities, not just in an international, but in a rather, let's say, protected Russian, Belarusian speaking opportunities. Yes, this would be great. And that's why I really think this initiative is extremely helpful and useful.
Thank you very much. That's very clear. And I think we'll be coming back and picking up all these points in a few minutes. Mikhail.
So also, first of all, many thanks for organizing this very timely event. I can only echo what my previous speaker said, that, I mean, this is a key topic. I mean, protecting, defending academic and scientific freedom is really the responsibility of all of us at all levels, by all actors, both at member states level, but also at the EU. And I mean, we have learned about very good initiatives run, for instance, by the DAAD, the Hilde Domin program, financed by the Federal Foreign Office, or the STAR program, the Norwegian STAR program, very good examples at the member states level. But I really believe that also the EU needs to play a strengthened role here in this regard. And definitely we should actually explore possibilities how to foster cooperation and exchange, and maybe eventually leading to a new program line within Erasmus+. So I'm very much looking forward to our today's discussion here. Many thanks.
Thank you, Mikhail. Yeah, as well as the people who are physically in the room on the panel, we also have virtually on our panel this morning Professor Martin Palis, who is, I think, in Poland at the moment, and is a former rector of the University of Warsaw. He's a member of the European University Association Board, which I think is particularly important because the EUA has a kind of very strong engagement on supporting students at risk through its Welcome Refugees platform. So I think there's, Professor Palis, if you can hear us, I'd like to pass the word to you to give some input as well on how you see this discussion this morning at European level.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be in this panel. Well, we have heard about the programs by national agencies. Also, a lot of universities, including my university, is very active in supporting students at risk. But there is always a problem of scaling up this process. We need, if we want to really have a larger impact, we need to scale up on the European, in the European level. And this is not possible without involvement of European institutions. And there is also, I'm very welcome the comment on the difficulties that stem from the legal status of students and scholars at risk in every country of the European Union. This is also something that could be tackled by the European Commission or generally by European institutions. And there is also a place for promoting international solidarity in tackling challenges that are related to the students at risk and what students at risk face. The European University Association is already active in many projects that are related to the students at risk. And I think there is still a space for raising awareness of all involved institutional parties, both the Brussels institutions, national rectors conferences, and the member states. So I think that this panel and this meeting can give some indications what could be done on the best possible way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the initial input. It's true that we want to talk about what could and should be done at European level, but just before we get to that, I'd just like to cover a little bit more what is or isn't being done at national level, because, okay, we've had 3 excellent examples of initiatives taking place from Germany, from Norway, and from Poland. But for example, in the last ministerial conference in Rome, the topic of Belarus was very much on the table. Only half of the countries in the European higher education area there agreed to sign a statement of support to Belarus. And also, those half of the countries still, within the statement, which was excellent that they did sign, they made a commitment to support students coming out of Belarus and to make sure that they were properly financed. So, so my question is, are other countries doing enough before we get to what the role of at European level should be and how it could be best developed? Do we have some thoughts about other countries as well and the support they are or are not giving in Europe? Matteo, can I ask you that question?
Yeah. So there are some specific examples. You can take the EU for Belarus, which also, for instance, involves Czechia and Latvia and Poland and very few others. But the scale is not even matching the need. We were talking about 24, like the countries that signed that declaration were 24 out of 48 at the time. So we're talking of half of the countries of the European higher education area and the 2/3 of the European Union countries. So this is not enough, and we work with our national members to push for that. And this is why also a European approach can be useful, because the fact that now we have also a member of the European Union, like Germany, that has taken also a role in that, meaning that it is possible to replicate the Norwegian example, and also the interest by the European institutions to do something concretely, finally, about that, might be also a political tool, not only for us but also for our national members to call for their governments to sign in. Maybe there are specific actions, but they are only too little and especially too late. We need a structural approach on that.
Right. Okay. So maybe now, Philip, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn to you, because I'd like you to tell us how you would see the role of the Commission ideally being. Is it a role to support what is already happening at national level, in which case you could build on the projects that are in place, or is it to stimulate developments at national level, or is it a combination of both? So how would you look at the role that can be played by the Commission?
Okay, thanks. Honestly, we see indeed that a lot is happening by quite a number of member states. Maybe other member states can do more. There was already in 2020 Commission recommendation addressed to the member states to actually also address the issues of students at risk specifically. At the Commission level, a lot of initiatives are currently being taken. We know that DG INPA is working on a specific scheme for students from Afghanistan. You already mentioned the EU for Belarus, which is also funded through DG NIR, where they're helping specifically students from Belarus. DG Home is setting up a number has already had a number of expert groups, is very active on complementary pathways. So there are a lot of initiatives taken across the Commission. Also with DG RTD, we're looking into the issue of researchers at risk, which is obviously very relevant in this context as well. But how do we see it? I think, I mean, I cannot prejudge the political outcome, but it's clearly a topic where the Team Europe approach will be extremely valuable, where we can build and encourage more initiatives at national level and see how we can complement them at European level to make sure we have a coherent, comprehensive package. I fully agree, a more structured approach, because initiative seems to be a bit happening haphazard without a very clear picture of what is everybody doing. So from that point of view, the idea of a Team Europe approach where we'll be trying to pull together initiatives at local, regional, national level and see how we can complement and support them at European level might presumably be the best way forward.
Okay. Thank you. I think that was very positive to hear. I mean, is there anybody who thinks that the current sort of dispersed approach brings any benefits? That's because, as you say, there's initiatives, but some are in one DG, some in another. The question is, if we don't see any value in that, how do we move to the Team Europe approach that we're advocating for, I think. So, but I just want to hear if anybody has any argument in favor of what's happening at the moment with individual DGs doing what they can to support the students at risk where they see possibilities to act. Does that have any advantages?
Well, I would rather ask, I mean, the DG NIR initiative, for example, maybe we talk to the wrong people, but how does it work? I mean, people to whom we have spoken, nobody is aware of that. Where to address, where to apply, where to ask for visa, who is the focal point? I mean, so far, apart from Poland, Lithuania, sometimes Latvia, almost none of the member states is ready to give any visa. So first of all, it needs to be clear what is how is the procedure, the legal grounds for this? How can we simplify bureaucratic obstacles? How can we reach out to those who would be, let's say, eligible for this? So far, I wish it would be, I mean, even known. I mean, I have heard for the first time that DG NIR has an initiative for those students or researchers at risk, or also the DG Research. I mean, I would be happy to spread this word if you have more information and how this would work and what kind of group of people would be the ones you would like to reach out. But otherwise, I mean, it sounds good. This is what I'm trying to make in my first statement. The words are all good, but the real action sometimes extremely, I mean, this let's say the disparity of that what we have on paper and real action is pretty high, and that of course the frustration on the ground. And therefore, if Commission and also the EU delegation in Minsk have a proper information on how this is dealing, what kind of institutes and so on are involved into this, we are more than happy to say this is a good solution, but so far nobody is aware of that.
So there's first of all an issue of awareness raising. Mikael, coming to you from your perspective, how is it to kind of work on the articulation between what you're doing in Germany and what is happening at the EU level? Is this simple for you, or is it problematic? How do you see it at the moment?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And first of all, I just would like to emphasize that there's really a clear political commitment on the part of the member states, but also on the part of the Commission, really to step up efforts in this regard to protect the freedom of scientific research and also academic freedom, of course. I just briefly would like to recall also the Rome communique that you just mentioned, but also the Bonn Declaration on freedom of scientific research, which was initiated during the German EU Council presidency, and which was signed by all EU member states and Commissioner Maria Gabriel, and also some other international non-EU partners. So this actually gives a clear signal that we really want to step up efforts here. I also would like to stress that just recently, end of September, the Council adopted conclusions on the new global approach in research and innovation. And there's a specific paragraph dealing with concrete support measures. So member states and the Commission are invited to consider setting up or fostering actions or tools available to researchers whose freedom of scientific research is under threat in third countries. So there's a clear call on the Commission and on other member states to set up such programs like the Hilde Domin program, for instance, but also like the so-called Philipp Schwarz initiative, which is run by the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation in Germany, also financed by the Federal Foreign Office. But of course, the same is true for other initiatives like the one from Poland or, of course, the one in Norway. So again, there's a clear political commitment on the part of the member states and on the Commission side. I believe we need activities at all levels. So it's good to have all these initiatives at the member states level, for instance, to have even more. I mean, it's a matter of scale. It's a matter of having more of that. At the same time, I think also at the EU level, we need coordination efforts. So I think the involved DGs should work better together on that. I mean, Philipp, you just mentioned DG INPA, DG EAC, DG Research Innovation, and others, DG Home, very important as well, of course, as far as visa questions and so on are concerned. So better coordination on the side of the Commission would be highly desirable, also from my point of view. But at the same time, I think we definitely need to organize a good cooperation between the Commission and the member states, and actually funding organizations like the DAAD, for instance, in order to co-create and co-design, so to say, possible new measures also at the EU level. I mentioned at the beginning that I could imagine a future new funding line in Erasmus+, and maybe it would be a good idea, for instance, to set up an expert group or expert groups dealing with that, co-creating, co-designing such a possible future funding line under the Erasmus Plus program. I also very much like the idea of a coordination point or a single entry point, if you may say so. I think this could really help to share experiences, to share information, to share best practices. But again, I think activities at both levels are needed, the member state level, but also at the EU level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, I'd like to turn to Martin to ask you, in this line of thinking about the way in which we can better structure the response at European level, what about the engagement of the higher education institutions and how, because they are really already the front line of welcoming the students who are at risk, and I think they have a number of when you look at the Welcome Refugees map around on the EUA website, you see initiatives all over the continent. So there's a lot of spontaneous action which has been developed throughout European countries. But how can it be fed into this discussion about the best way to structure and make accessible the support that's coming at European level?
Well, I think that there are two levels of this discussion. One is what happens on the national level, on the university, individual university level. But I would like to add a few words to this discussion about the coordination on the European scale. We should remember that for many students at risk, the need to relocate, to go to another country appears quite suddenly with not much time for the preparation. And it usually means that people do not have a place for stable living, or I mean for accommodation. They are usually short of money, and they are without sources of incomes. Their study documentation is incomplete or difficult to get, and the legal status is either unclear or unstable. So there is important aspect of time. They have to arrange many things in rather short time, and if they have to go to different offices and discuss with different institutions, it usually takes months before they can be able to continue their education. This is a very long time in their difficult situation. But going down to the university level, I think that the universities could be and would be helped by the system of the kind of a database in which there would be a description of the educational system in the countries where the students at risk come from. Because the constant element of every admission is the assessment of their previous education and how to at what level they can join the educational process. And this is something that could be provided by the European Commission or European institutions. And if there is a country in which the situation deteriorates, and we expect that there would be a number of candidates for students from those countries, this database could be quickly updated for actual information, and that would be very helpful for the universities. I would like to emphasize that it would be even more important for countries that do not work according to the Bologna system, but they have their own systems which are not very compatible. And the second thing is that the universities who work with students at risk usually do it with the university administration staff. It is not only the students that have to overcome the language barriers and cultural differences, but also the administration that has to do the same from their end. So it would be very helpful if there is a type of the exchange of the practices among the university administration from different countries. We know that in the Erasmus Plus system, there is a possibility for university administrators to go for exchange to similar institutions. If this is also made for the university administration that deals with students at risk, it would tremendously help in exchanging the good practices and of course, doing this better. And finally, the universities and the national institutions put money to this to support students at risk. But as I said, to scale up this, it would need some additional funding. And this is something that would be actually the key enabling element for bringing more opportunities for students at risk in the European countries. So that's what I see on the level of the university. Plus one more thing, the housing, the accommodation for the students. They are coming in the situation that they have nowhere to live permanently or for a longer time. And supporting the universities in their attempts to provide this housing for students at risk would be something very useful, because normally there are limits how much of this living space universities can give to these students. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Martin. I think those were very concrete points and very important ones. Maybe we just kind of respond on a couple of them in the panel. I'd also like to remind people engaging online that that you can put comments in the chat, and if you have questions to the panel, I'll try to find them and pick them up. So please do. I want to pick up first of all the issue about the valid point that Martin raised, and which Hector also talked about earlier, that often under time and kind of stress of the reality that they're dealing with, people are not coming, of course, with documented qualifications into Europe, and it can be tricky for assessment of those qualifications to be done. However, there is the Lisbon Recognition Convention, which provides a legal framework for all European countries to recognize qualifications. It has a specific article, it's article number 7, which is about the recognition of qualifications of people in a refugee-like situation or without documented evidence. And what we've found from monitoring the implementation of this particular article is that at least half of European countries do not implement it. They have no legal follow-up to what is legally required by ratifying the convention. So, Matteo, what's your perspective on this one from the student side, that on the recognition of undocumented qualifications?
It was just said, and also what Hector said was is a key element, because in order to get into higher education, you need your degree and your skills to be recognized. The, let's say, simple question would be that the ministers of the European higher education area endorsed the European qualification passport for refugees of the Council of Europe, which means that and there is an instrument that allows those refugees, in this case, but we can scale it up for applicants. In the end, even if maybe they are not given their refugee status, but the student status, if they are coming because of political persecution, they are refugees de facto. So we have a tool that allows that allow to assess the skills and the knowledge of the applicants or the students, even if they don't have the piece of paper on that. At the same time, the real problem is that it has been a pilot project, a successful one, but it still is a pilot project. We need the political will to use it and to implement it. And so, for instance, also the European, if what was proposed before, if the European Commission would take up the challenge, in this case, it wouldn't be to set up a new evaluation scheme, but just to actually implement and use what has already been done, tested, agreed politically, and successfully piloted.
Okay, good. So the point is that we have the instruments in place to do this. Maybe the issue of the database that Martin mentioned, I'm wondering whether this also does not exist through the ENIC-NARIC network. That, you know, but simply it's not being used in for the purposes that we need it to be used for. It's this seems to be the kind of issue, that a lot of things have been developed, are in place, but are simply not being used. Is that your experience? Any comments on that, Mikhail?
Sorry. I think I'm the only one with this microphone here. No, I mean, indeed, I believe that there are already several tools in place, but I think maybe what we need is a better clustering of these tools, and a better coordination of these tools. And as I said, I think it definitely would be worthwhile, just as an idea, if the Commission, for instance, would set up an expert group or expert groups, again, involving representatives from member states, but also representatives from stakeholders. And I think we have a good example for that. I mean, with respect to the initiative on European universities, I mean, the Commission set up an ad hoc group with member states experts, but also a group that included stakeholders. And that, from my point of view, was a perfect example how to co-create and to co-design a possible new funding line. In that case, it was about the European universities. And I believe it would be a good idea to consider a similar approach now on this topic in order to pool the knowledge and the experiences, and in order to have a better and clearer picture about what already exists, what needs to be improved, and in which areas a European approach could make the sense so that we have a complementary and supportive action also at EU level. So again, many tools are on the table, but I think we need more clarity, more transparency, and the pooling of expertise and knowledge here.
Yes, please do.
Yes, actually what we have seen also the example of Belarus once again, because this is a right now very, let's say, real one, that some of the researchers dealing with this and also students' organization have set up data bank and data machines where you find 1,500 students and researchers plus 200 researchers who would like to apply for the Philipp Schwarz initiative, for example, and 3 of them were so far accredited. So, I mean, on one hand, we need more data, but even if the data is available, we do not have the right, I would say, tools or instruments to really help this. And this is exactly what Matteo said and what also the student from Honduras said. There's a much bigger need. There's not a real matching on what is needed from the one side. We have to find, you mentioned this undocumented qualification, but even if they have time to get prepared and to apply, it is not appropriate. Yes, it is good that we start working on this now, but actually I do hope that DG Home, that our Minister for Internal Affairs are not finding other, let's say, obstacles on an easy way to pave this ground. I'm very happy to hear that now there should be 10,000 humanitarian visa for Afghan people. Yes, this is good, but compared to the situation, for example, in Belarus, there's nothing. Yeah. And when our German federal government started with an initiative for Belarus, and there's 11 plus 3 so far from the researcher side who finally end up in this program, sorry, but this is, I mean, that's ridiculous. So really, we should make an effort and give also political signals to those autocrats, such Lukashenko and others. Because, of course, if we take a couple of people, nobody takes us seriously. But if we really welcome them and say we take dozens, hundreds of people, because they make an effort and they are also an asset for us in terms of research, in terms of connectivity, scholarship, and so on. This is a win-win situation, and I really regret this even more than the case that this is not a political signal.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm just wondering, I'm not getting any chat comments, but I'm wondering if I'm not looking properly at this telephone. I don't know if somebody could pick them up for me, that would be useful. Okay, so if I give a kind of summary of what we're saying at the moment, we're saying first of all that the scale of the demand is not being met by our offer. So we need to really think how to of the different ways in which we can focus both at national and European level on scaling up. That to do so, we need to also coordinate better, that it's got to be, we've got to be realistic that students coming in emergency situations out of countries like Belarus or Afghanistan are not going to be able to distinguish between different DGs of the Commission or to be able to cope with a complex kind of reality at European level. So we need to think on simplification, on better communication of what we're offering, and really to kind of match in the best way and complement and stimulate developments at national level. So so that seems to be the message on how to act. Philip, do you think it is realistic to expect this from the as a response at the Commission level?
That this kind of action could happen?
Yeah, I mean, thanks. I think it's very useful that this debate is taking place. Obviously, I will take the messages across the streets. You can count on this one. But that there is a feeling. I mean, politically, it is an important topic. Honestly, there are a lot of DGs working on this seriously. I mean, can provide more information. I think there's also a role to be done to raise awareness of what is actually already there, although it might by no means be sufficient. But a lot is happening. But okay, I can see the kind of conclusion that there would be an increased focus on the Commission in order to try to pull together what it's already doing and to see where are the gaps and how can we coordinate better and improve the overall offer, which is done at local, national, regional, and European level. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. But I think we're getting towards the end of time. I just saw a message saying that there's an issue about posting comments on YouTube, that people can't do it if they're not registered on YouTube. But that may be why I'm not seeing comments, because people are having problems to post them. But can I? Yes, sorry, Philip.
So there is one comment from the chat and a suggestion of a mentoring program accompanied with the scholarship program. This is something extremely important, the commenter says. Furthermore, psychiatric support as well. Money is great, but those students have many issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah, that's a very good point about, and it was also mentioned by Julia in the earlier discussion, that that we should not be ignoring the mental health of realities of people coming out of areas, countries when students at risk. So, so indeed, the kind of services that can be offered, which exist, but maybe not adequately in most universities and countries, I think. Matteo, what's your assessment of the state of support for guidance and counselling, particularly psychological counselling? Do you have any information about that?
Well, it depends. First of all, now the issue of mental health in general is something that is this is being much, let's say, cared upon more, but it's a very recent development. And so we have this the issue of already providing the mental health services for let's say general students, and this is being developed with initiatives in several higher education institutions, especially through actually the work of our members at the national and local level. So we need to have this kind of support for general students, and of course also for these kind of students that come from situation where they were at risk of their lives, or they come from autocratic or war-zone countries. I would like to underline one thing that I think it's important that needs to stay in the picture, which is the emergency situation, in the sense that what happened, for instance, to Afghanistan, but also what happened to Belarus was an escalation of the situation, which means that, as it was said, and for instance, the International Institute for International Education we need to have first like a rapid response scheme for students, and I would also underline researchers at risk. And also we need to combine the students and scholar approach with the refugee one, because it seems like trivial, but not all the people have a passport. And in order to have a visa, you need to have a passport. And the passport is issued by the authorities from which you are trying to escape. Well, if you have and that is why the humanitarian, for instance, corridors are important, because they allow people that even don't have maybe documents or papers, also ID cards, to actually enter the support scheme. So we need to combine these two approaches, and this is a very important thing.
Absolutely. Okay, I'd like to, we're almost out of time, so I'd like just to give you an opportunity to add anything that you think we haven't adequately dealt with in 1 minute, just a final comment. So, because I'm talking, I asked you first because you've got the microphone in your hand, but it's just that none of us are using microphones apart from you, so.
Again, I think we all agree that this is really a key topic that needs to be even better addressed. I mean, no doubt about that. Again, I think what is really important is this close cooperation between member states on the one hand and the Commission services on the other hand. I believe the Commission should also undertake efforts to actually better coordinate their activities. And again, I think exchanging experiences, pooling knowledge and expertise, that would be helpful. Learning from such wonderful programs that are already in place, like Hilde Domin, like the Philip Schwartz initiative, but also initiatives in Norway, in Poland, and other countries. I think that would be helpful. And then to identify in which areas, for instance, at the EU level, a complementary scheme, for instance, could make sense. I mean, you just briefly mentioned a rapid response scheme. I mean, just from my personal point of view, this could possibly an area where also the EU actually could get active. Again, I think cooperation and exchange between member states and the Commission, that is key, and definitely it would be highly desirable if the Commission could actually become active in this regard. Many thanks.
Thank you. And again, mentioning the model you talked about with the consultation model that was used for the European universities, this could also be a good way of consulting.
Absolutely, a very good example.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, Martin, if you're still with us, do you have any last thoughts?
Well, I would very much support what Michael said, that the co-creation approach with expertise from various stakeholders would be the very good way to not to duplicate efforts and take the best possible combination of what has been already done. I know that the NAWA in Poland has developed a lot of interesting tools. It would be good to just allow these tools to be available for everyone and possibly scaled up further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Viola?
Yeah, very quickly. I think it was an extremely fruitful and useful debate here, especially also to hear from you that the urgency matters is approached maybe from member state side, but also from the Commission side, to get a little bit more of information, to spread this information on the ground where it is needed. And also I can only say that European Parliament is always happy to support this kind of initiatives, while we see honestly that there are so many people in need, not just in Belarus, but all over the world. And those kind of programs and initiatives would do a huge, how to say, positive impact for a bigger group of people, and would also, as I said, be a big benefit for us in the European Union.
Thank you. Matteo?
I would just like to underline the importance of paying attention to the details, because the devil is in details. We don't want to have a scheme that works on paper and doesn't work in practice, which means, for instance, that the funds, like the scholarships, needs to be high enough in order to live in that country. It needs also the housing support, as it was said. It needs also the support in order to arrive in the country, in the visa issue, etc. So we need to take in consideration all of these aspects, and probably this is the most difficult part, because not all of these things are competence of the European Union, and even if we have a Team Europe approach, still we are talking about something which is very sensitive, politically sensitive for member states, like migration. So we need to pay attention that the result is something that actually works, and for those students and scholars that should do that. And also, very last thing, we need this for students, but also for research. We have a pilot program, the Inspire Europe, but this is just a coordination between those programs that do that at the national level. We need something similar of what we are discussing today, but also for researchers at risk.
Absolutely. Okay, and Philip, you kind of got the last word, but I'd just like to say that on the making sure that the support is enough in each country, I mean, that's one aspect of the programs we heard that I thought was really positive, that they were basically fixing the support at the level that home students would receive the support, plus whatever other additional support would be needed by students in an emergency reality. So if the European level can match onto what the national level of support is given, that might be the way to find a solution to that issue. But the detail. So
yeah. Okay, no, maybe just in one sentence, I think it was said that defending academic freedom is, I think, a concern to all of us, and I think we have a shared responsibility at all levels. I mean, honestly, universities will have to play a key role, and they do a lot. They have also a lot of autonomy to decide on a number of issues. We see member states, when it comes to visa issues, we completely depend on what is happening at the level of the member states, but it doesn't mean that there is no role to play at European level. So I think I got the message very clearly that also we have to think how we can do more and better in order to support and stimulate the initiatives that are happening across the board.
Great. Well, I think it's been an excellent discussion, and I think at least amongst us, there's a kind of clear idea about the way we should be moving now. So let's all, from our own perspectives, try to push in the same direction. And you know, I'm sure there's a really positive dynamic, because unfortunately, the one thing we can know for sure is that there will be more emergency situations, more students at risk needing support in Europe. So, so better to be prepared and better to be able to offer the right support. So, so thank you very much for to all of you and to Martin in Poland. And I'd like to hand back to Philip now, is it, for the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And thank you to the panel for this inspiring and very fruitful discussion. It's not every day that the work that you're doing back home gets so much attention and so much nice attention from such distinguished guests and panelists. So I will take that back with me to Norway when I continue my work. So my takeaway today is that I think we need to continue to be doing what we're doing in Norway, in Poland, and in Germany, and hopefully also inspire others to take up this work. There are, of course, improvements that needs to be made in terms of availability of teaching languages, in terms of the time schedule of the nomination and acceptance procedures, and also in terms of how to deal with the recognition of academic credentials of people who cannot simply access them because they are refugees or fleeing from their home countries. But this discussion gives me hope that there will be possibilities to coordinate and make a sort of a more coordinated efforts to speed up these processes. Philip, what did you take away from the discussion?
I'm looking forward to continuing our cooperation between our institutions, but also looking forward to keeping up the dialogue that we established, keeping up the dialogue with like-minded partners, such as the ones we met today. And I think we should all continue working together in this field for students at risk. And I definitely hope that we are getting closer to some European approach on this matter also.
Exactly. And when you mentioned closer, before we close, first of all, we would like to apologize for the technical difficulties that we have seen parts of this session. But I would also like to thank everyone involved in preparing and implementing this event, content-wise and technically. Thank all the speakers, the students, the directors, the panel, and Mr. Crozier, and also the audience for showing an interest.
Thank you. This event will be accessible online for a while. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.